What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Merab Dvalishvili talks about Dagestani fighters. Merab Dvalishvili knows what it's like firsthand to battle a fighter from Dagestan. While the bantamweight champ acknowledges the region produces elite fighters, he's not about to declare that they're gods among men. Dvalishvili is coming off a decision win over Dagestan's Umar Nurmagomedov, who had not been defeated until he fought the Georgian fighter. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Although the fight was close and some questioned the decision, Merab did prove his doubters wrong. And let's face it, there was no shortage of those heading into UFC 311. Well, more recently, Merab was asked about facing Dagestani fighters while talking with Europop. Here's some of what he had to say. Dagestanis are really good fighters. They've always excelled in martial arts, but at the same time, they're ordinary people. Heavenly forces do not help them. They're ordinary athletes and others can defeat them, as you saw in my case. Khabib went undefeated, but he simply did not meet a worthy opponent. Sure, history shows us that Dagestani fighters are indeed human, but is it accurate that Khabib Nurmagomedov did not face a quote worthy opponent unquote? It would be interesting to see what Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, or yes, Conor McGregor have to say about that. Interestingly enough, recently Ilia Topuria was also asked about Dagestani fighters while appearing on the Full Send podcast. The way the featherweight king sees it, Dagestani fighters are ultimately frontrunners, and they don't fare well if things don't go their way.
None of them have like a special cardio and special stamina, you know what I mean? If they feel in the first contact in the first round, but that they can control you, that it's very competitive, their head goes down. Yeah.
So what, you think it's about beating them in the earlier rounds?
This is what they try to do, to beat you in the earlier rounds, to feel that they can dominate you, that they are stronger than you. This is what they try to do all the time. But when they realize that it's not like that, most of the time they lose that kind of fights. All the competitive fights, they lose, all of them.
Of course, if we're talking about the aforementioned Makhachev or Khabib, would most people say that they don't have good cardio or stamina, or that they fold in competitive fights? Probably not. But Dagestan is a region with over 3 million people that has produced many fighters. So it's kind of important to clarify the sample size while having these discussions. All that aside, what do you think of Merab and Ilia's comments here? And do you agree? Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman run into each other. Colby Covington was on live stream when Kamaru Usman passed him, according to Colby. And Kamaru didn't want to say anything to him since he was on stream, but he wanted to talk after. Here's what Colby had to say.
What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Good to see you. It's a live stream. It's a live stream. Yeah. How you doing? Feeling good? Good. All right, for sure. Yes, that was Usman, guys. He just said, hey, man, we're going to talk in a little bit. I don't think he wanted to talk on the stream because he didn't want the chat to hear what he had to say. But, yeah, we'll definitely chop it up a little bit. Maybe we'll get a picture. Or maybe we'll just fight. You never know. When chaos is in the building, it's unpredictable.
Rampage Jackson talks about antitrust lawsuit. A few months ago, a judge approved a massive $375 million settlement to end a class action lawsuit that was brought by multiple fighters against the UFC. Well, more recently, Rampage Jackson opened up to Bradley Martin about his participation in the suit and about how he feels about how it wrapped up. The participating fighters and their legal team battled the UFC in court for years before the antitrust suit was finally settled in October. In short, it was alleged that the UFC abused its massive market power to keep fighters under contract, and in doing so, they were prevented from earning more money. Well, recently, Martin shared a video of him talking with Rampage about the suit. Here was some of what Jackson had to say about what went down.
350 million.
350 million.
And that's low.
How many fighters?
Bro, ever since this is what happened. When the case first started, it was only a few of us in there. So I first originally got told, like, they brought me in. The only reason they brought me in and said, yeah, your cut's gonna be 60 million. I'm like, all right.
What the?
Sign me up, right? So now I'm in there. Years go by. This 10 years ago. Yeah. Years go by. Now, I'm not mad at this, but a lot of other fighters that's owed money is in there, and you know how antitrust lawsuits go.
Right.
So now it's dividend, and the attorneys gotta get their cut, stuff like that. So my cut is now not 60 million, but at least some of my comrades are getting money.
Those are pretty interesting comments from Jackson for sure. And he also reported to Martin that another big name fighter recently contacted him and was extremely upset because he wasn't included in this suit. Jackson also claimed that he and his lawyer have considered legal action over the fact that the UFC contracts allegedly state the promotion owns a fighter's likeness for products like video games until the end of time. It'll be interesting to see if we see more veteran and retired fighters discuss the lawsuit in the coming months. Ilia Topuria says Islam Makhachev is scared to fight him. Islam Makhachev hasn't sounded too interested in fighting Ilia Topuria and has talked about moving up in weight to pursue other challenges. But according to the featherweight champ, it's because the renowned lightweight's scared to face him in the cage. For a while now, both Makhachev and Topuria have talked about moving up to hunt for another division's title. In the case of Makhachev, he's even said he'd be willing to fight at middleweight since his friend and teammate Belal Muhammad holds the welterweight belt. But when he's been asked about the possibility of fighting Topuria, Makhachev has dismissed the idea. According to the champion, he already has enough money and defeating Topuria wouldn't add to his legacy. After all, Makhachev has already defeated the former featherweight king Alexander Volkanovski twice. Well, when Topuria was recently asked by Marca about Islam's comments, he had this to say in response. He's afraid. Of course he's afraid. As usual, it's an easy fight until they put your name on the contract. We all know, if it were that easy, and if I'm small as he says, he would already share the octagon with me. Given Makhachev faced Volk when he was at the height of his powers, it seems kind of unlikely he's afraid to fight Topuria. While there's no doubt Topuria is ridiculously dangerous, Makhachev has repeatedly said that winning a title in another division is a big goal of his. But what do you think? Is the lightweight champion ducking Topuria? Alex Pereira reveals heartwarming news. If you follow Alex Pereira, you'll likely recall an emotional video he shared out last summer, which documented a fan asking him to shave his head for him. The fan informed Poatan that he'd been diagnosed with cancer, and since the treatments would result in him losing his hair, he wanted the champ to shave his head. The request prompted Pereira to tear up. Well, more recently, Pereira shared out a heartwarming video of him and the fan attending a fundraiser event for cancer in Australia. Poatan proceeded to report the fan, named Ashton, is now cancer-free. Here's some of what the decorated fighter had to say in Portuguese. It was something very emotional, very heavy for me. I cried. I got emotional. To see this guy's recovery, he told me he was training Muay Thai and had to stop because of the cancer, and now he fought against cancer. He beat cancer. After a hard fight and treatments and now 3 months cancer-free, a big inspiration. Shama right here. This right here is to inspire everyone in the world. This is what you call fighting. It goes without saying that this is amazing news, and Pereira's comments are extremely well put. The light heavyweight king is preparing to fight Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 313 on March 8th. Alex Pereira dapped up Drake at his concert in Sydney, Australia. Here's the clip.
Who was that? Oh, that's your cousin. That's a cousin. Shout out to your cousin.
Michael Chandler gets called out by UFC lightweight. Terrence McKinney quickly put away Damir Hadzovic in his last outing, and now the lightweight's targeting a showdown with one of the division's biggest names, Mr. Michael Chandler. McKinney faced Hadzovic at UFC Saudi Arabia earlier this month and proceeded to finish the fight with strikes in just 121 seconds. It was another big win for McKinney, who has gone 3-1 now in his last 4 bouts. Well, more recently, McKinney spoke with Inside Fighting, and while discussing possibilities for his next fight, the 30-year-old said this. Me and Michael Chandler for sure. That's a great fight. The first round's gonna go crazy. I think he's one of the people that I do want to fight, though just out of respect, because he's such a savage, and I feel like we're so explosive and so crazy in the first round, it has no choice but to be like one of the craziest fights you ever see. On paper, there's no doubt that Chandler versus McKinney has some serious potential, but is it a matchup that Chandler and his team would be willing to take right now? Probably not. As it stands right now, McKinney is not ranked in the top 15 of the UFC's lightweight rankings, while Chandler is sitting in the number 7 spot. So Chandler would have little to gain by facing McKinney right now. Further, recently there's been extensive speculation that Chandler could be tapped to fight Paddy Pimblett next. Iron Mike has expressed an interest in throwing hands with the rising English star, and many believe that Chandler has signaled he's going to be fighting at UFC 314 in Miami. Pimblett has also made comments that prompted many to conclude he's also going to be fighting at the April 12th event. But would you be down to see Chandler and McKinney fight? And do you think it's a realistic matchup for McKinney right now? UFC updates. Okay, now let's take a look at some new fights and matchups that are being reported. Now that Dominic Cruz was unfortunately sidelined with a dislocated shoulder, which prompted the legend's retirement, Rob Font has a new opponent for UFC Seattle. Recently, MMA Junkie's Nolan King reported that Gene Matsumoto has agreed to step in and fight Font at the February 22nd card. Font is coming off a decision win over Kyler Phillips in October and is 2-3 in his last 5 contests. Matsumoto, meanwhile, recorded a decision victory over Brad Katona in October. The rising bantamweight has yet to be defeated in 16 pro bouts. Octagon Update is reporting that Cedric Dumas will throw hands with Michael Oleksiejczuk at UFC 314 April 12th. Dumas recorded a decision win over Denis Tululin last August, and the middleweight has gone 3-2 in his last 5 scraps. Oleksiejczuk, meanwhile, is in desperate need of a win, as the veteran has had his losing streak extended to 3 by Nurmagomedov in his last bout. Magomedov defeated him by decision in August, so the Polish fighter is very likely in a must-win situation. Carlos Contreras-Legaspi recently reported that Jalen Turner and Ignacio Bahamondes will throw down at UFC 313 March 8th. Turner is looking to get back on track after he was finished by Renato Moicano last April. The loss was Turner's 3rd in his last 4 contests. Bahamondes, meanwhile, will be looking to further build on the momentum he's been generating, as he's coming off back-to-back wins over Christos Giagos and Manuel Torres. And finally, the Global Fight League continues to book bouts between fighters in their 40s, as recently the promotion announced Fabricio Verdum will battle Frank Mir. A date for the fight has yet to be confirmed, but the GFL is expected to get underway in April. Verdum, who is 47 years old, has not fought since September 2023, when he lost via split decision to Junior Dos Santos. Meanwhile, the 45-year-old Mir has not fought in an MMA fight for years. The former UFC champion's last MMA bout took place in 2019, when he lost a decision to Roy Nelson. Are you interested in seeing Mir and Verdum finally battling in the cage, or are you taking a pass on this fight? Henry Cejudo believes Umar Nurmagomedov won if it was based on damage. Merab Dvalishvili drew widespread praise for the awe-inspiring determination he showed in his UFC 311 showdown with Umar Nurmagomedov. But debate over how the fight went down and how it was scored still continues. Officially, Dvalishvili won the fight via scores of 48-47, 48-47, and 49-46. But Umar and his camp have argued that they did enough to win the fight. While many observers believe that Merab won the last 3 rounds of the contest, that doesn't mean that it wasn't ridiculously close. Case in point, during a recent episode of Home of Fight, Henry Cejudo argued that if the bout was scored on damage, Umar would have taken it.
But it's not like Merab beat it's not like he beat him. And if you really want to talk about if it was a full fight, in damage as a whole, I would probably give the fight to Umar. You know? But because it's based on rounds, Merab still got 3, which is a swing round, but I'd probably still give it to him because of how he ended and how he entertained. You got to think about it too.
It's an interesting discussion for sure. At the end of the day, however, Merab still holds the bantamweight crown, and he's expected to fight Sean O'Malley or Peter Yan next. But what do you think of Cejudo's comments here? And do you agree with Triple C? Arman Tsarukyan chokes out Nina drama for his back injury. At UFC Vegas, Arman joked with Nina about his back injury, saying that she caused it and then pretended to choke her out. Here's the clip.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. This is because of you. I hurt my back because of you.
Tell him I didn't hurt your back.
No, you didn't hurt my back. It was my fault.